Thank you. I am your chair for tonight, and I will try and do my impression of Jeremy Kyle, obviously with less of the domestic fighting wandering amongst the audience. We'll see how long that lasts. That idea might collapse after 5 minutes. I've just got a few housekeeping rules first of all. Reminder about the car registration number, which I've mentioned to you already. It's a paying display out there, but you get free parking if you attend this meeting. Make sure, Sue, wave again Sue, that you put your car registration number in the laptop there. We have the bar open, we've got refreshments. There is going to be no break, so if you need to go to the toilet, gents there, ladies there, or go and get refreshments, go. There's going to be no break. But I've got to finish at 9 o'clock. And if in the hopefully unlikely event that we stand, it's good to see people fighting over seats, isn't it? As opposed to having an empty room where we're trying to fill the seats. Anyway, if we do have a fire alarm, please walk out calmly through this door here. We will assemble by the tree, and the staff will do a quick wander around, see if there is a fire. Hopefully there won't be, and we can get all clear and come back in. The structure of tonight's meeting, and there is a kind of structure, is that it's going to be in 3 parts, although they'll kind of merge into each other. The first part was a number of businesses who will talk about the impact of the low traffic neighbourhood on the businesses. Because I know there's a lot of people here from roads, like Vicarage Road, like Winners Lane, who've been affected, but you probably haven't heard it from the business point of view. They will also, the second, third part will be open to you, the residents. Let's hear what you think. There will be questions that you will want to ask us. And then the final part, what can we do? What can we do to stop this? Because are we just here just to let off a bit of steam? No, we don't want to do that. There are things we can do. And one of the things that we've been talking to in the Business Association is a solicitor and a barrister about mounting a legal challenge. And we can go into that. There are implications. It's going to be cost money, but we can go into that. Also, we have a donations bucket. Mary, can you raise our donations buckets? Because obviously these meetings do cost money. We've had to hire the room. We are intending, do not want to give up, but putting out leaflets, printing costs us money. So the money that you give us will be ring-fenced, go back into the Business Association to help us continue this campaign. So we will be, as you leave, you will be squeezing past the donations bucket. A few quid, a fiver, it all helps to the campaign. So, to get us all up to speed, quickly, I am going to give a quick resume of the history of where we are with regards to low traffic neighbourhoods. I'm going to bamboozle you now with a few dates. October 2020, the road closures went in on the west side of the High Street and on Poplar Road and School Road as part of an 18-month experiment. After 18 months, which was March 2022, the council said, yes, they've consulted with the residents in November 2021. The majority of the residents were against the road closures, but we are still going to go ahead. They're going to be made permanent. And we're going to go to phase 2. Phase 2, the council gave the go-ahead for phase 2 in January this year. They did say that if phase 2, which is the closure of the roads on the east side of the High Street, doesn't go ahead, they will remove all the current road closures in phase 1. So there is a bigger thing, and they've said that several times. So if you stop phase 2, which is due to go in autumn this year, the council say they will pull out phase 1. There are a number of hurdles for the council to jump over, and the big one is May. if they keep to their timetable, there will be another consultation on the traffic regulation order. It's a legal process to install phase 2, and that is where your legal challenge comes in, and that's where we need you, and I will come to this later, to get your objections in, and this is where we need legal advice to make sure that you're objecting on things that you can object on legally on a traffic regulation order. So that's May, and this is the key crunch time coming up soon. Then, what the council say is that with a permanent traffic regulation order, we'll get them standing in the corner. Oh, he's giving me the evil. Chris is giving me the evil eye. So what they're saying is, May there'll be a consultation. June is when they will write a report saying why they should ignore your objections, and then July is when they sign off the report, and we've got 6 weeks in which to do a legal court challenge. So that's where we are. So, first part, we're going to talk to some businesses so that you know how the low traffic neighbourhood has been affected on the business. Because you probably hear all the story, if you go on Facebook, you know, you get all these people who support the road closure saying it hasn't affected trade. You're going to hear the real story from the people whose trade has been affected. And first of all, I have got Wendy Bell from Morris Robinson Sports. Morris Robinson Sports have been on York Road since 1948. A family-run business. And Wendy, York Road's been closed off. Can you tell us how it's affected your business?
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see so many people here, but it's very sad that we have to meet under these circumstances. My parents started our business in 1948 in York Road, and we've been there ever since. Our business grew and grew until we became one of the largest and most respected racket sports stores in the UK. Our customers came from all over the UK for the personal service that we offered. After COVID, our business was really booming. More and more people wanted to get outside and play sport. When the LTN hit us, it was a real body blow. Customers were ringing saying that they were turning round as they had been so long in a traffic jam, or that they couldn't find a parking space. Of course, we all want the ideal world of traffic-free streets, but this LTN, like many others in the country, was implemented without thought or consideration. The traffic jams are creating more fumes, and people are spending far longer on their journeys. Taxis are refusing business in Kings Heath. What we need is an efficient train and tram service to encourage people to leave their cars at home, if they want to. Of course, mine is a business interest, and this has been ruined by the LTN, as have several other businesses in Kings Heath. But I really feel for those people who have to live in the traffic-filled roads, and I'm amazed by the selfish attitude of many who live in the closed-off roads. So I urge you to support our fight to remove the present LTN and join our fight for better transport links in the city. What is the point of spending lots of money on a faster train link from London to Birmingham when those arriving here have to spend hours on a bus or in a taxi to get to their end destination? Sadly, at the end of this month, Morris Robinson Sports will be leaving Kings Heath, and I really could weep at the wanton destruction of a thriving, long-standing, respected business that was employing 6 staff.
I was on a chat with you 2 weeks ago, and you were telling me that you had people coming to your shop from all over the Midlands, university students from like as far as Hull. Is that correct? And why were they coming to your shop?
Because we offer a fantastic personal service for people who are buying a specialist racket and want advice and want to feel the racket. It's not something that want to try it out. It's not something you can do on the internet. When we opened after COVID, we had customers come from Cornwall, from West Wales, and I say from Hull, from Preston, within 2 or 3 weeks of us opening, who'd been sort of waiting to come to us, as well as lots of local people from all the local tennis clubs.
and that was bringing trade from all around the country here into Kings Heath. And what is York Road like now?
Well, when we were open, our customers who came from a long way away would go to the local restaurants and eat while we did restrings for them and things that they wanted to wait for. But now the road is like a ghost town. For 95% of the time, there's just no one there.
Terrible. Now, I've got Neville here. Neville Summerfield owns Contrast Florists. And I know in the past year when I've come to Mother's Day and get my Christmas tree, I have been to see Neville, doing a fantastic service. And your shop has been there for 40 years on Poplar Road. How has the closure of Poplar Road with an LTN affected your business?
Thank you, Martin. Also, we currently actually live there, so we, like many of you, have to suffer the direct day-to-day consequences of these LTNs. Our trade is down between 30 and 35%, and that happened fairly quickly after the installation of the LTN. I'm just wondering if those who developed the concept and those who approved the concept and the avid supporters of the concept would be prepared to take such a cut in their salaries. I somewhat doubt it, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Let us say, well, saving the planet is worth it, because these LTNs have fantastic results. And they tell us that they reduce emissions, that they increase road safety, and that they encourage community cohesion. These are the stated benefits. Well, as for my wife and I, she's very disabled, that's another personal factor, but in terms of business and so on, we have an LTN outside where we live and work, and we have to sort of circumnavigate it. And in terms of also flower deliveries, we do 2 or 3 a day, and I'll come to that in a minute if Martin will allow me. My local mileage has gone up several hundred% because I've got 3-litre cars, which is ridiculous. And it just pushes other vehicles onto the high street, which itself is a no-no, and Vicarage Road is a nightmare. So one has to try to find other routes, but that will become more difficult in the future. And as far as community cohesion is concerned, you can close a road for a street party or a jubilee or a special event or a jumble sale just by phoning the highways department. I've been involved in such things many years ago. You don't need an LTN to keep the nasty cars away. And in terms of the safety aspect, it depends where they're positioned, because the one outside my shop is right by a school. So consequently, you get particularly parents who still come to the school in cars with their children, but also commercial vehicles doing 3-point turns. And I have to do 3-point turns right outside the school, so I don't see how they are any safer, depending where they are actually positioned. So as far as the people that think this is a great idea, and yes, I'd take a big cut in my salary for the sake of the LTNs, I'd suggest that they are actually just throwing their money away, because they don't seem to fulfil very many of the objectives that they say they are so good at. And as far as this dreaded phase 2 goes, it'll put LTNs extensively across the east side of the high street. And tomorrow's a typical day for me, both personally and business-wise. And if this plan goes ahead, and this will affect a huge number of you, in their isolated neighbourhood areas, the little dot in the blue area is my shop. The little dot in the pink area is my first delivery tomorrow morning. If phase 2 was installed tomorrow, I would have to travel right around Howard Road East and up Yardleywood Road and down Wakebury Road in order to get to it. Coming back, well, we say it's a bit easy because I can actually go via St Mary's Road, the short route. But that's still chock-a-block. But you can't go around the other way because of the no right turn in the middle of Moseley. So we're all faced with a journey of 3 minutes in a car, becoming a sort of a 20, 25-minute nightmare journey. And that's what it means. But that is what they want to achieve, these segmented neighbourhoods. But these are the consequences of doing such a thing. And finally, I would just say, with regards to the consultation, it has absolutely the integrity of their consultation. It reminds me rather of the council attitude towards the blue light ambulances that in the first 18 months were continuously turning around at the bollard outside where I live and work. And it's on many video phones. In fact, I've got to learn on my phone. It's not with me at the moment, it's over there. And we've got ample evidence that ambulances on blue lights were turning around and going the other way. The council said, this did not happen. This does not happen. But it's not on their sat-navs. Well, I say their consultation hasn't happened either. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neville. Now, we've got Kenny Carr of Dwell Home Care. You moved into Kings Heath, investing in the business, moving your business into Kings Heath. Do you want to tell us what your business is and how it's affected you, the LTN?
Evening, everybody. First of all, Wendy, I'm really saddened to hear your personal circumstances, that you're having to be forced to leave your family business. Where's the human rights there, I wonder, but I'm really saddened and I wish you well. In terms of Dwell Home Care, we provide community care. So we travel from home to home, so it's domiciliary care. The impact the LTNs are having on us is the time management. So our calls are very time specific in terms of individuals who are diabetes patients who need their medication and food on time. So the LTNs has affected our care staff and a lot of disgruntled service users in terms of you cannot make up time. So rather than from one call to another taking 3 minutes, poor carers are having to travel 20 minutes or even longer sometimes when they are forced to get onto the high street to then get to the next call. So care is a very, very sensitive and dedicated industry. If individuals are very sensitive, they expect our care staff to get to the calls on time within reason. But the LTNs have diverted all the traffic into one direction and the carers are forced to just sit in traffic. We also offer companionship to individuals who are housebound. So in terms of taking individuals out for trips and what have you. So if there's, and it's all time sensitive, some individuals can only sit in a car for say half an hour, 20 minutes. Well, of course, if you take them out of their home and drive in, and are forced to drive onto the high street, 20 minutes are wasted in traffic, and these poor individuals, all they see is bumper-to-bumper traffic. So we have I've taken the hit on the head, and we sort of extend their calls without charging these individuals, because it's extremely unfair for businesses. I've been there for two and a half years, and 4 businesses have closed down. The rug shop was the latest business to close down. So it's just nonsensical, and in terms of businesses, it's had a detrimental effect. I invested in Kings Heath for a reason. I wanted high street presence, and I wanted to offer the community a service, which we do to a certain degree, but time management is absolutely non-existent. We cannot keep on time with the calls. The carers already start 6 o'clock. Some start at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's a 24-hour industry. It's 7 days a week. There's no Christmas holidays. There's no bank holidays. And on top of that, the carers are now forced to spend hours and hours in traffic, which saddens me greatly. But unfortunately, we have a voice. We all need to stick together, come together, and express our dissatisfaction. I'm very, very surprised that these sort of things can be forced on individuals, and I'm more than happy to support everybody and anyone that needs support with removing these LTNs.
We did invite the local councillors. In fact, we invited all 101 councillors. But none are here. None are here. We invited the 2 MPs as well for Hall Green constituency. That's Tally Addy and Stephen Kane. Nothing. We invited the elected mayor, Andy Street. Nothing. I'll give credit to Izzy Knowles. Give her credit. She did say that she's gone to the meeting, but she'll try and come towards the end. So, at least she responded.
Andy Street gave his apology.
Andy Street gave his apology. So, and also Adam Higgs, who's not in our ward. Adam Higgs in Hunter's Heath. So, but that was it. 101 councillors, only 3 could be bothered to respond. Says all. Anyway, next.
It's called democracy.
Exactly. Next, we have Alan Miller here. Now, Alan has been involved, giving support, in anti-LTN campaigns across the country. He's co-founder of the Together Declaration, and he's had a few words to explain, how he sees things from a national perspective. Is what we're seeing in Kings Heath any different to what you see happening across the country?
Hi everyone, thank you for that. I just want to say firstly, thanks for having me here to speak. Listening to these heart-wrenching renditions, unfortunately this is what we're seeing around the country, where local residents, local businesses, the sorts of things that underpin the community, our mobility, our freedom and our democratic voice are being treated with contempt by councillors, local council leaders, and we've got to say as well the national government who are underwriting many of these things. So it's across the board. But listening to this, it's very similar. If you look at boroughs in London like Haringey and Hackney, in Haringey there's a road called Middleton Road where they've serviced people in the community for 140 years. 2 of them have just closed down recently because of the low traffic neighbourhoods. Many of them have lost between 30 and 60% of their trade. Mike Carter, who's the leader of that area, that ward in Haringey, saying we have to make this as painful as possible. We have to make this as painful as possible. All the same issues come up. The LTNs mean that it has impacts for people with mobility, for the elderly, disabled, but for people generally with their families, dropping kids at school, getting through, deliveries, all of those things, and push it onto the main arteries, which increases consumption and cars and congestion and time and actually fumes as it happens. But it's met with disregard. There seems to be this idea that you don't have to actually engage with the public. Similarly, if you look at Bath with the Ring of Steel, what a nice name. It's like Checkpoint Charlie's, the idea that back to feudal times, we have to pay a poll to move from one part of our place to another. There's passes that are allocated. When did we ever agree that we were going to negotiate away our mobility rights? When did we have that discussion in Britain? When did we have it in Birmingham, in the Midlands, or anywhere in the UK? We never have. And yet, by stealth, in all of our communities and towns, it seems that people are saying, we're going to do this anyway. Right? We're going to do this to you anyway. So, in Bath, we have a situation where the councillors did not want to engage. In fact, we organised with Save Our City with Bath an actual community hall meeting, not dissimilar to this. It was organised, and actually they got the fear put into them, and it was closed down. But because of that, we organised the thing within 3 days at a big hotel, and actually what happened was they had hundreds of people show up because people are furious and they want to know what they can do about it, and they want their elected representatives to listen to them. They haven't listened when they've done so-called consultations, which have been one-sided, loaded questions, not gone to everyone, and when they have gone and come back and the responses are negative, they then ignore them. Now, if that's not contempt for the democratic process, people can say whatever they want. They can give smears about saying that people are from this thing or that thing. But if you talk about the content of what's going on, the virtues of the issues, We're always inviting local councillors along. We're inviting the cycling groups who are advocates that are being very well funded by Active Travel, 5 billion in the UK, and millions being spent around the UK. We're asking them, rather than be keyboard warriors and accuse people of things with anonymous names, come and have a conversation in the public realm. We're all fellow citizens. It's fine that we've got different ideas. We can discuss them. But people seem to have an aversion of doing that. Even more important, forget the campaigners, right? Elected representatives seem to have an aversion of doing that. Perhaps even worse, Oxfordshire County Council has such contempt for residents and businesses that it decides that when it does the so-called consultation, and 65% say they don't want that, they ignore that. They then go to the next trial. They're all trials, right? We've just heard here how it's a trial with the next one. But each trial is predicated on the previous one working. So you have low traffic neighbourhoods, then you have the bus gates, which is linked to the idea of a 15-minute neighbourhood, 100 passes, 20 if you're just a family member or guest, and then you have to pay. But what they've also done is when they've had the consultation, the report that came out that was commissioned to try and prove their point contradicted their position. So what did they do in democratic Britain? They suffocated it and they didn't put it out there. After they told the Department of Transport it's happening anyway, Duncan Enright, Head of Transport in Oxford, this is going to happen anyway. So what we're faced with, today, it looks like around the country, Kings Heath, Moseley is one example of this, in many areas, in Canterbury, we see it in Bath and Cambridge, where congestion charges are being threatened and imposed, but people have organised, and we can talk a bit more later, as Martin was saying, about what you can do about it, where people are organised and challenging things, is this idea that we know best, we're going to tell you what's going to happen, you don't have a say in it, but we'll go for a little consultation where it's very loaded, you don't get a chance to say no, and by the way, when you do respond, we're going to ignore it. Now, people are surprised that in Rochdale, some people took it upon themselves to do some things, and we've seen other things in Oxford and elsewhere, right, where people have damaged these bollards and things like that. Now, I think the thing is, the way that this gets resolved is democratically, is by putting pressure on local elected representatives, councillors and MPs, by getting our fellow neighbours and friends and citizens across the board, in our regions, but around the UK, because let's have it straight, all those people that say you're not from this area, poke your nose out. All the people that are putting these measures in, this is a national implementation. As it happens, it's backed internationally as well, but it's a national implementation. So the Lib Dems, the Conservatives, the Labour Party, the Greens are all part of, guess what, a national organisation, and they're all implementing these things on us locally, but they're relying on the fact that they've got money, they've got time to do judicial reviews. What they can't do, what they can't deal with, is having hundreds and thousands of local residents challenging them, not voting for them, voting for other people, standing independently and saying, we're not having this anymore, you've got to change, we won't have it. They're not able to deal with that. That's why we've just seen in Bath, they've had to come out to the mall and business community. We put so much pressure collectively on them. And what we need to see, ladies and gentlemen, in our opinion, that together, is that the public, the local residents and businesses, people, us, get put at the heart of decision making. Whether it's urban planning and transport, if you want to make the case for measures about changing transport, great. Let's have a cost-benefit analysis. Let's discuss what these things are going to mean. Let's listen and consult properly to people that are local, that have been here for 100 years or 40 years or just 4 weeks, right? Let's have that diverse response, and then let's us all make a decision about what's best for our local areas and nationally. But that's not what's happening at the moment, and those that want a name call, like in the playground, can carry on doing that, but those of us that are serious about the kind of towns and cities and regions that we want to have, and we talk about levelling up in the future, the great city of Birmingham, right, that's historically known for all of the things it's invented and manufactured, and now these measures of roadblocks and shutdowns, like in Hackney, they want to shut down 35% of the roads. Well, we've got to say we're not having it. I think we've got to say that we're going to free our streets and we're going to do it together, and that's what I encourage everyone to do in this room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, that's excellent. Now, we're now going to go into you, the audience, for I'm going to talk to some people from Vicarage Road, but if you want to say something, ask a question, say how the LTN is impacting on you, raise your hand. We do have people dotted around who are filming the audience. If you do not want to be filmed, will you tell me? Just give me a signal and I'll just tell the people who are filming to point their cameras at the front. Is that okay? But I know some people just don't want to be filmed, but that's fully understandable. And first of all, I'm going to go to two people from Vicarage Road who now have these apologies, who have been impacted. And I have Hamid from Vicarage Road. You want to explain how it's impacted on you?
Well, the volume of traffic after the implementation of LTN has multiplied. A local group of us on Vicarage Road managed to persuade the council to have a meeting online. And when we put all the facts and figures to them, that the volume of traffic has increased, the pollution has increased. The chap who was representing the council, both of the local councillors were in the meeting. It was a team's meeting, together with the head of the West Midlands or Birmingham Transport, I think it was Mr. Edwards, Transportation. It says a lot. If I just could tell you the conversation that we had with him, when we pointed out that the traffic has increased, you are actually defeating the object of the exercise. You're increasing the pollution. People's times are wasted. He said, well, what can we do? We cannot just create extra roads. Well, how about removing and unblocking the roads that you've already blocked? And silence, no answer, no surprise. They refused to have any further meetings with us. So it seems to be, by all accounts, that the council is completely immune to facts, logical arguments, and fairness. So what is left to do is either direct action of some sort, legal action, or, as the gentleman said, well, vote them out of the office. That's the only thing that can work.
I'm going to have Mike next. Mike's going to sit down for this, but you live on Vicarage Road as well, by the bus stop opposite the Kings Heath Park.
As Neville said earlier, Vicarage Road is one of the worst roads affected by this, and a lot of people, I heard, agree with that. A lot of people are probably not aware that there's a mobile roadblock in Vicarage Road, and this is a green bus company that comes to pick pupils up from Campbell School. Now, it parks at the number 11 and the 35 bus stop there. This in effect causes a roadblock. The traffic can be built up there for half an hour, and it takes about another hour to disperse. A lot of people are caught up in this, and I've tried to do my best to get rid of this bus company. The chap I spoke to there, he's telling me that he's got permission to park 3 buses on Vicarage Road, but he's telling me they're all parked at the top by the red line. I said, well, how come one is outside, on Vicarage Road there? He said, there's not one there. And he's told the council that, the council believe it. So, this bus needs to be moved, and things might flow a little bit better, but they'll never be better than they were in Vicarage Road, never. Unless they get rid of all these, plain pots as a
Thank you. Okay, can you give us your name?
Yeah, hello, my name's Tom. I live in Alton, and I've been to 1 or 2 other meetings about this. What I really wanted to say was that this isn't just about LTNs. This is about 15-minute cities and the imposition of restrictions on your life. The most frightening thing, thank you. The most frightening thing is that the government are prepared to use fear to get you to comply. Just to use one of the things that came out from SAGE during COVID, this is a method that they use. And they came out with this, which is a substantial number of people still do not feel sufficiently personally threatened. The perceived level of personal threat needs to be increased among those who are complacent. with hard-hitting emotional messaging. And we see from the WhatsApp messages from Hancock, I don't know if anyone saw that, where he said, we need to frighten the pants off everyone, which is a terrible thing. I can't ever recall in history when a government would use fear to induce a certain type of action. It's, well, 1930s, yeah. So this, as I say, is the thin end of the wedge. The next step will be 15-minute cities, and the objective there is to corral people into shorter and smaller areas. Back in the 60s, I read that governments were in competition to build as many dwellings as possible. So that's why we got all the tower blocks that are now... Sorry. That's why they built all the tower blocks that they're now trying to get rid of. So you've got to be prepared for what is going to happen. In Oxford, as a number of people have mentioned, what we see there is that you've got 100 passes per year, and that's per household. So if there's 3 people with cars, you're only going to be allowed out of your zone 33 times a year. And then they're going to impose a 70 quid fine. And how are they going to do that? That's why they're installing cameras all over the country now, so they can monitor where you are, and when they've got that, then you really are, you've lost all the freedoms you have. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Stan? Okay. Stan, I've got Stan Hems here. Stan is, how you've been a butcher and chair of the Business Association.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This hasn't just happened. I personally went round with another member of our business association and did a survey on all the businesses. I'm representing the residents and the businesses there. My shop, I've been in Kings Heath trading since I was 19, and I'm 27 now, so you know, it's a long time. No. But I've been trading in Kings Heath since I was 19, and I was 80 last November. I never tell me I don't look 80, I look, oh, don't clap me, no. Anyway, this has been put on by Kings Heath Business Association. And I went round on behalf of Kings Heath Business Association doing a survey. We surveyed all the businesses, every business we could, the small businesses, the big ones were difficult. And out of all the businesses we surveyed, 95% were against it. My business has gone down by 1/3 at least now. We're thinking of moving out. As I say, the only butcher in Kings Heath. The other thing is that the council are now talking behind closed doors, if you live in a terrace house and you've got a car, permits to put your car on the road. £1,000 a year. They're talking. And if you have 2 cars, it'll be 2,000. If you have 3 cars, it'll be 3,000 for the next one. Now, you probably, I don't know if anybody's on Facebook or whatever, I don't, you know, I've been told this. We had a lad come up from Camp Hill School, which is true, to get some chips in Kings Heath. They went back down to Camp Hill and they were attacked by the park with 17 balaclava lads with machetes and knives to steal the mobile phones and the coats. The one's coat was actually ripped. Consequently, they ran, they got away. But all the lads jumped on motorbikes, the police came, all the lads jumped on motorbikes and scooters. The police couldn't follow in police cars because of the road closures. The ambulances can't get through. The fire service can't get through. It's just an absolute, utter mess. No consultation, but they called me and my other colleague who did the survey, they called us liars. It wasn't a true survey, fake survey. And that's one of your councillors. In full council meeting, Councillor Barker called us liars. It's a fake survey. Full council. We only lost the vote at the last meeting. There was even, both sides, and it was by a casting vote of the chairman that got this through again, phase 2. But believe me, This is the thin end of the wedge, as that gentleman over there said. It is definitely the thin end of the wedge. We're all being brainwashed. But anyway, think about it. The next thing, all the properties on the roads where this is, nobody want to buy your properties with all the car fumes. And my shop, when I was here in the 60s and the 50s, and there was smog and I don't know, you probably remember the fog and whatever we had. But now, we're having to go and wipe our count off. And the people, the employees on the high street and on the roads, who we represent, the businesses, they've got to be in nose-to-tail car jams all day. And they're working in that, and that's not fair. But anyway, I want to thank you on behalf of the Business Association for coming, and we'll do some more of these, I think, because it's been very, very successful. And I thank everybody, the speakers. I thank you, Martin.
Road, want to say a few things about the impact of the road closure?
Well, yeah, I mean, they've closed them. All the traffic is coming down Grove Road, where I live. And the kids are all walking there. Exactly what they're trying to avoid. They're pumping all the fumes straight into the schools, the same as it was saying there, it's up a Poplar Road. I mean, it's absolutely, it's frustrating, isn't it, beyond doubt. You've got the boy racers coming down there now, as fast as they possibly can. There is no speed restrictions at all down Grove Road, because it's the only school in the world, I should imagine, without any speed restrictions. Ridiculous.
Thank you. Okay. This gentleman here from Wheeler's Lane.
Hello everyone, my name's Rob. I live off Chesterwood Road on Wheeler's Lane, but obviously live in a community and impacted by the LTNs when I travel about said community. I find it intensely frustrating that our local councillors who are supposed to represent us don't seem to listen to what we say and that they won't grace us with their presence. I've got my own personal views about the LTN, but if that's not just a minority of my view, but it's representative of the community, presumably, if the councillors won't attend these meetings, have we tried attending their meetings on that? I've just had a look on my phone. There's a government website that says where your next surgery for your councillor is by ward. So if anyone wants to actually attend to a place where we know they're going to be, if they won't come and see us, people could leave with that information from this meeting today. I'm sure we could collate that. I wasn't planning on doing this, I was just attending, but if someone can provide me a pen and paper, if people want to give me their wards, I can tell them who their councillors are and when the next meeting is. So for mine, there's one on Tuesday next week for the Bilsley ward. But I imagine if you feel as passionately about this as me, and that we ought to be listened to, surely that is the point of local representation. If you attend and encourage anyone else in your local ward to attend, surely if we all attend en masse, assuming this is a majority view, they won't be able to ignore that sort of information, whereas it's far too easy for them not to attend events like this. And we just talk, we agree with ourselves and nothing happens.
Want to just keep talking. You know, we want action after the end of this. There is, we'll come on to that in a bit. And Madame, you live off School Road.
Yes. I just thought for a change it'd be nice to hear a female voice living the other side of Moseley. I live off School Road in Elmfield Crescent, and I don't want to repeat everything else. You know, if you see the state of Valentine Road now, needless to say, or if you, the little trip to Moseley, which took me just down School Road now, all the way down Green Hill Road, I feel sorry for the residents there, and all the way back up Oxford Road. I think the reason I'm here is the matter of action, and to really make it clear when we challenge that the residents are completely behind the businesses and that we're working together and they can't separate us. I have a vision, they say, oh, it's just the businesses, you know, they're out for their profits. I think if we can somehow have a scheme and so where they really feel the residents are supporting the businesses united. And the other thing, yes, the consultation process. Utter contempt. I went to one along in Kings Heath Community Centre, you may remember, I think it was in the autumn, waited for over half an hour to see somebody, and they just sat there half asleep. They couldn't even be bothered to bring out a notebook, and I just got so furious. I said, I insist that you write down every word I'm going to say now. I mean, really, it really is contempt. And perhaps what I'm looking for, that when we take the action, that it really is proper consultation. I don't know if by law we could make sure that the residents and the businesses are not dealt with such contempt anymore.
Thank you. We will come on to the permanent traffic regulation order. There has to be proper consultation on that. They can't just ignore you, and this is where we'll hopefully, subject to funding, have a barrister who will go through the process and make sure the council follow the law correctly and don't fob us off, basically. And that's where you end up in court, but we'll come on to that in a bit. Got a lady here who has a business on Poplar Road. Do you want to tell us what business and how it's affecting you?
Hi, the business is E6 to go, and we haven't been in Kings Heath as long as most of you. We've been here for 8 years. But in those 8 years, we had a very, very profitable business with lots of customers, lots of local customers. Now our business has dropped by 35 to 40%, and we have had phone calls to say, we can't come to you anymore because we can't get to you. And you know, we have 3 members of staff that work for us, and we're now in a position, do we have to let one of those go? Because we're just not taking the money. So that's somebody else that's going to be unemployed, and purely because of road closures.
Thank you. Another reminder that if you come by car, it's a pound display outside, and you get free parking. If you sue, give us a wave, fill in the laptop, put your car reg in there, and it will be free parking. Otherwise, there is a danger that you will end up with a fine. Yeah?
Some people felt that if they were in a driveway and not in a car park, they were exempt, but I would be on the safe side and actually be registered.
If in doubt, put it in. Oh, and here's one. Leslie, from Countries Florist, you wanted to say something?
The MPs have a surgery once a month. If all these people here lobbied that meeting, he wouldn't know what to do. I suggest that these people can somehow find where the surgery are. I'm sure Martin and the others will know. If all you people here tonight, if you turn around to lobby the MP at his surgery, who would just displace his surgery, you wouldn't know what to do. They won't come to us, we will go to them.
Got someone who's going to tell us a bit of legislation?
Yes, so the council is breaching their own legislation. There is a primary legislation, it's called Union with England, that created basically the United Kingdom. Now, so the first section, it says, that the two kingdoms of Scotland and England shall, upon the 1st day of May next ensuing the date hereof, and forever after be united into one kingdom by the name of Great Britain. I don't read the whole thing, I just read the first one because it's just how long it's valid. The 4th section is the important. That all the subjects of the United Kingdom of Great Britain shall from and after the Union have full freedom and intercourse of trade and navigation to any from any port or place within the said United Kingdom and the dominions and platination thereunto belonging, and that there be a communication of all other rights, privileges and advantages which do or may belong to the subject of either kingdom, except where it otherwise expressly agreed in these articles. Yes, so this legislation provides us freedom of movement all over in the country. Forever, it's said in the first section.
What legislation was that?
Union with England Act 1707. It's a primary legislation, they can't withdraw this. So the council, not here, but everywhere, in their own legislation. And have this. There is case law. I don't have it with me, so I can't remember. Lord Diplock said, what doesn't make sense, it's invalid.
Jolly good. Excellent. That is the beauty of mobile phones. You can get to the law straight away on your phone and quote from it. I remember the day when we just had to go home and, well, we had no law books. I've got some of my hands here.
Hey, I'm saying this with a very personal room. Last year in January, I had a phone call at my workplace which was hell for me, that my next door attached house was on fire and my house was going up in flames. My local fire station, which was Moseley at the time, they were on the far side of Kings Heath, couldn't get to us through the bollards, so the Highgate come to my house, they saved my house literally within minutes because they came from Highgate. My children lost everything within their home from school. That's why I brought them tonight, because they need to know what's going on. They're the youngest members probably here, because they need to know this is their future that's happening. We lost nearly all our home. Highgate Fire Service saved us. Our local station, which is 2 minutes away, couldn't get from the other side of Kings Heath. When I asked the fire, Billsley came eventually, when they came, they said to me, I said, can you just tell me, do you have keys for these bollards? No, we haven't got time for that, we knocked them down. I said, that's fine, but how long more is it taking you every time? 2 minutes every bollard. So you do not want to be with your children in any house fire or any type of that situation and you're waiting for a fire. And I know that's been covered a little bit and the Neville covered it. The ambulance services can't get through. It doesn't matter what they're saying, what the council's saying. I've had this debate with Mr. Cricket. You're talking to a brick wall, you're not going to talk to that wall over there. There's no reasoning with her on the emergency services. I know, I've worked for Wendy for 25 years. I've been a member of Kings Heath for 25 years. And this job lost, I lost my job in, I'm in a different job completely now. But I loved Kings Heath, I loved working in Kings Heath, I loved my customers in Kings Heath. But this was very personal for me about the emergency services because they saved my house but from miles away and my local one couldn't get to me.
Someone asked a question which I will hopefully have an answer for.
I live where phase 1 is, as a group on the particular road, the Creek Road. We did ask the council, because they said they put the phase 1 in during COVID emergency measures, that's what they had to do under. So they said there was no consultation because of that reason. But they were going to do an after consultation, which again was skewed anyway. So I said to them, why don't you take all the bollards down for 3 or 4 months, take your measurements then, put them back up for 3 or 4 months, then take the measurements, then you've got actual real data to come to us with. But they're refusing to take the bollards down to do that. They're just basing it on information that's circumstance and just assumptions.
Answer part of that question. There was something called the Kings Heath and Moseley Low Traffic Neighbourhood Members Board, where the 4 councillors would meet and discuss how they were going to implement this low traffic neighbourhood. And by freedom of information, the minutes are freely available, very well detailed. it's quite interesting to see how they responded when the majority of the consultation said they were against them. They were all flabbergasted, wondering what to do next. But anyway, in the early days, they said we need to measure things to work out, has phase one been a success? So that was included things like people cycling more, less traffic in the surrounding roads, you know, and impact. Did it have any impact on the businesses? And as you can see, as you go through the minutes, they basically ignore them. They did, in fact, in the end, it appears they didn't even bother collecting the data and just went ahead with phase two. Now, I mentioned about, the gentleman mentioned here about the law, and he has a fan in the audience who wants to ask him to quote the law, because she's going to check it and give you support. Can you tell us what the law was you read from?
Union with England Act. Union with England Act 1707. This is the act that created United Kingdom basically, because before Scotland and England was separate country, and it guarantees the move forever. That's in the act, in the first section.
1707.
1707.
I don't think the Magna Carta was ever put in law. I mean, but it's just a nice museum piece. I don't think it was ever implemented. Yes. So I think. Well, I don't think we're going to have a history lesson here. Anyway, we've got to stay focused on the LTN. Apologies, gentlemen, sir. Oh, political campaign there. Yes. Go on, sir.
I used to come to this area very often. I used to play for Pickwick Post and Mark Cricket Club, and I've noticed the changes in Kings Heath. But what I'd like to say is that if Wazim Zafar, Trickett and Co spent more time and more energy and more money on traffic flow, on improvements to roads, things would be a lot more, much more different. But what I'd like to say as well, I mean, Alan's organisation has created a lot of templates to send to your MPs and councillors, but there is a third-party reporting resource called Write to Them. You use that, you go online, write to them, it will tell you who your MPs are, who your councillors are. Use the templates that Alan provides, send them to your councillors and your MPs, and that is audited. It goes to them directly. It doesn't go through to their councillor email as such, where they can ignore it, and it doesn't get audited. But Write to Them will audit it, and they will also tell you, or basically jog your memory, that you've sent a message to them and ask if you received comments. Now, please have a look at these. Write to Them, and My Society Do Others. There's What Do They Know, which is a Freedom of Information website address. Please use those tools and try and get some answers.
Thank you. You're from Sunnyope, but you come to Kings Heath on a regular basis?
I do, yeah. Hiya. I'm from Sunnyope, but I do come to Kings Heath very often. On the LTNs, a couple of things. Why are the parking bays down Kings Heath High Street still blocked when all COVID measures have been taken out?
Because you slow the traffic going up the high street. That's the only reason.
Absolutely, sir. That was the obvious one. It's more of why don't we ask everybody else this too? You know, not just us, because we're all quite well informed on this. Bus lanes. There's a bus lane coming from Druids Heath towards Kings Heath, I believe.
Yeah.
Something I've noticed about a few bus lanes, I'm not making a conspiracy of it, but there are many bus lanes on the way into the city centre, but not one on the way out. So you can get into work nice and early, but you can waste your own time getting home. I'm not saying I want 2 bus lanes, I'm just saying it's something for thought, to just twigger a seed of thought for the uneducated. And something else as regards to increasing cycling. On Wheeler's Lane, I noticed it first because I did my motorbike test in a motorbike place just opposite. They put double curbs in so that you don't park for schools and things. However, all the double curbs have sharp corners. I remember as a child there was a drive to turn all curbs into a curved edge because the damage to cyclists when they came off their bike was because of the sharp edges on the curbs. Now all the double curbs that they've put in, they have sharp edges as a motorcyclist, and to encourage cyclists, so people who are against traffic would also want to know these things. But if you break down on that road, you cannot get your car off the road because there's a double curb and you can't push it half off the road. So it's just creating roadblocks, as that gentleman said over there. I just wanted to point those couple of things out because they seem quite pertinent to me to do with LTNs, and it probably will come everywhere.
Thank you. With regards to the suspension of the parking bays on High Street, I mean, I do know a lot of history of it. They were introduced in May 2022, so 2020, when the pandemic had started. I sound very geeky when I say this because I know the exact date. I remember the morning, because I was the town centre manager at the time, and I remember contacting the council saying, what's going on? We haven't been told about this. Oh, it's about COVID, it's about widening the pavements. It's only 6 months. 6 months ago, they're still there. And the council apparently have, last April, done some consultation without telling anyone that they're going to permanently remove them. But they haven't really, in fact, can I just introduce Mark here? Marcus, if you're on Facebook, you'll know Marcus. Has been a campaign that, but you've also been talking to shopkeepers about these parking bays, and also you have done a survey of the shopkeepers on whether they support the road closures or not.
Thank you, Mark Hudson. Yes, we have done a survey of the shopkeepers on the High Street in relation to the removal of the parking bays, and the council said that they've all been consulted. Not one of them have. No. Can I just mention 1 or 2 other things? Just a couple. We've got some gentlemen who are on the other side of the fence, you know, and as far as I'm concerned, we should be reaching out to the whole community, even those that might have a view in terms of liking the LTNs and the closures and all that sort of thing. And as far as I'm concerned, we respect everyone's view. We might not agree with it, but we respect it. So if anyone from the other side wants to speak and have a say, that's absolutely fine. The other thing is that I've messed up a little bit because I was involved in the organisation of this event, and I basically, this isn't a great date, particularly if you're Islamic, because it's Ramadan. And so the Muslim community are a sizable community within, particularly on the business side, as well as the residents within Kings Heath. And it is Ramadan at the moment. That was an oversight on my part, and so I apologise for that. And so I'd just like to say that. But hopefully we will be having some more events like this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. If anyone who is supportive, and the gentleman at the back there has got his hand up, supportive of the LTN, you know, let's have a listen, you know, let's have a reasoned debate, you know, we'll be polite, okay, we'll come to you, you know, let's hear both sides of the argument, we'll treat each other with respect. Is that okay? Yeah. So, Madame?
I live by the Red Line, around the back of the Red Line. I've lived there for about 40 odd years. Just a couple of really short points. Following on from what that gentleman just said, there's quite a lot of bus drivers in Birmingham who are actually like Asian and a lot who are Muslim, and it would be really interesting to get their feedback, their input, because obviously the buses along Vicarage Road and the High Street are really affected by all of this with the tailbacks along Vicarage Road and Alcester Road. So yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't initially have any perspective on LTNs when they first kicked in. In fact, I wasn't even consulted. I didn't know it was a consultation because I'm not on the internet at all. I've got disabilities. But initially I thought, yeah, they want to get cleaner air for everyone to breathe. That's a really good thing because I have asthma, I've had pneumonia. The problem is that it did cause major tailbacks. I use the buses every day. And it caused crazy tailbacks, crazy traffic jams. So actually you've got buses and cars nose to tail pumping out fumes and everybody's breathing it in. So it's not helping the air get cleaner in any way. when I have to use taxis because I need a new hip, so when I have to use taxis to get me home with shopping and things, instead of a really quick, cheap 5 or 10 minute journey back home, they've got to go around and around, which adds to the cost, especially in the cost of living crisis that we're in. It's making it harder for people who don't have a lot of money because the mileage is more. Also, what I was going to say about the school buses outside Camp Hill, which I see on a regular occurrence. I'm wondering whether anybody could speak to the head and see whether they have huge grounds inside Camp Hill. Can't they park the school buses in the grounds? Because that would help the flow of traffic along the main road. And basically just, I mean, it's quite a scary thing when you think that we have people in government who have been elected to stand for us, to listen to us as well, especially to listen, and they're ignoring everybody. They can't even be bothered to turn up. They're not looking at the stats. When they make the stats to fit themselves, but when you give them alternative stats that don't fit their agenda, they either let it go over their heads or they deny it, and I don't know why. Maybe like we could contact somewhere like Panorama or Dispatches or Channel 4, because they are really, really good at doing sort of like programs on things like this where they listen to people and they bring it to the public agenda. So I just, you know, yeah, thank you for everything that you said earlier as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to go right to the back of the room, where I think we have a gentleman too who have a different point of view. And as I say, we will respect all different points of view here.
Thank you, Martin. All right. This is weird, isn't it? Okay, my name is David Robert Stark, and I'm really grateful for my good friend Mark inviting me to speak. We go back. Mark knows a lot about me. I just want to address really, I think there's an elephant in the room. Our friend on the panel, sorry, I've got your name, Adam, okay, discussed kind of democratic processes, and mentioned the idea of having candidates put forward to, on particular specific anti-LTN tickets. And Mark, bless him, was a trailblazer in that regard. He stood on an anti-LTN ticket, what was it, 10 months ago? And he lost. So the people, the names that people are cussing at this meeting tonight, David Barker, Lisa Trickett, the people who introduced the LTN, who said they were going to advance the LTN, they won. They had a democratic mandate to do it. Unfortunately, that's how it works.
Can I just say, we will treat anyone who's got a different point of view, we will treat them politely, we will listen to them, and we will respect any alternative views, okay? Sir, you wanted to...
I was actually going to make exactly the same point. We all had a chance to vote against the people that brought it in, and they, at the last election, and they got in. They got in by a majority of 3,000.
Well, they won't get in next time.
Yeah, but they did get in, and we all knew what they brought in. And we should also remember that the reason why this has been rushed in is because it was central government that insisted that the budget was used at a very, in a very short period.
And I'll come back, but I say, let's give everyone an opportunity to speak.
2 points. Kings Heath is a Labour stronghold. There's a lot of socialism and left-sided people in Kings Heath. It would take something immense to break that. Trinket and their allies didn't mention the LTNs once on their leaflets. Once in their They denied the existence. That election was not about the LTN. Mark played a blinder and he dented their vote significantly.
Again, if there's anyone here who has a pro-supported LTN, please, you are welcome. Anyone here at the back? No. Stan.
Yeah,
Please, Stan. Be controversial.
I have never heard so much rubbish in all my life. Democracy. We had no democracy. We had a vote. I collected the votes. I went round. And what happened was 95% of the businesses we canvassed, which was nearly 200, voted against the LTN. And then Lisa Trickett's and Barker stood up in a full council meeting and said, it's a fake survey. A fake survey. But anyway, that's not the point. There's that many people losing their livelihoods and losing the business, and retail employ more people in this country than any other business. Any other business. And all I will say is, I hope you've all got £50,000 plus, because by 2030, you'll all have to buy electric cars. You won't be able to have a car. You'll be walking. They're penalising the poor people in this country. They are. And to go into the city now, if you buy an old car, every time in and every time out, I think it's £8, isn't it now? So I'm telling you now, as chairman of Kings Heath Business Association, representing nearly 200 members, nearly 200 members we represent, and I'll tell you, this is the biggest fiasco I've ever known in my life, and as an ex-councillor myself. I just can't believe it. Do you want the mic?
Yes.
Still a slow on. Good evening, everybody. Right, I'm not from Birmingham. I'm from a small town called Wolverhampton. When I'm here to support Birmingham, I've supported Birmingham for the last 3 years regarding all the COVID shenanigans. Right, they're doing the same in Wolverhampton, if I'm honest. They're reducing all the speed limits down to 20-30 miles an hour. We know what's coming. They're putting cycle lanes everywhere. It's going to be absolute mayhem. So we're here really in preparation for what's to come in Wolves, let's face it. You mentioned 2030. We need to start looking at the policies. We can talk about 1707, Magna Carta. Let's look at the policies now. You know, the government used University of Oxford, Cambridge, Strathclyde to write a paper in 2019, November 19, and it outlined Agenda 2030, and you need to write this down because you need to look at this document. It's very interesting. It's called Absolute Zero PDF. You need to write it down. It's called Absolute Zero PDF, and it's a document. And the first 5-6 pages talks about really eventually what you're going to understand is this is absolute. Everything is to do with Agenda 2030. This is absolute zero. This is an anti-car, anti-plane, anti-fossil fuel. This is what the agenda is about, and you need to look at it. It's called Agenda 2030 PDF, and there's a great table on about page 7. It's a very colourful chart. You know, you're a butcher, and in the document it talks about there'll be no beef and no lamb by 2030. You know, and that's just a simplified version of it. But look it up; it's interesting document.
Thank you. Let's go back to the back of the room. I would say this meeting is keeping me fit because of my steps in tonight.
Thank you, Martin. My name's Angela Hadley, and I live off School Road, like the other ladies already mentioned. Now, personally, I would say that I'm benefiting from this because we no longer have the boy races. Oh, sorry. We no longer have the boy racers racing along School Road. Instead, they go along Hillsley Lane. But what I have seen is the absolute misery caused to the people in Vicarage Road and all of the other roads. And when their next phase comes in and they block off going off Ulster Road onto any other road, it's going to be an absolute nightmare. Now, I was so concerned about this that I emailed all of the councillors. Now, I heard nothing whatever from Lisa Trickett. had a very comprehensive reply from Izzy Knowles, but still in support of the LTN free. And what's the other? The man?
Kerry Jenkins.
No, Kerry didn't reply. John Barker. David Barker. Well, he clearly hadn't read what I put in my email at all. It was just a stock standard reply. So these are the people elected in our ward, supposedly by us, to do what we want in our area, and they are not even bothering to listen.
I forgot, sir. Alan, I'll come up to you in a second. Sir? Hi there. I live in May Lane. I taught for 40 years at Camper Boys School, so I know that fairly well. The gates and drives, you can't get a bus in, by the way, just so that's not a possibility.
Take down the gate.
Well, that's another thing, but at the moment that wouldn't be possible. But what I wanted to speak on was what was said by the gentleman over here and the lady at the back. At the last election, I wrote to all the candidates. I met you, I think, and had a chat with you as well, and wrote to them. I was a science teacher. I asked them a whole array of very specific questions. I did get replies. Not one reply gave any answers to any of the questions that I had raised in my letters. They're all generic statements about things. I asked for, please can you provide the evidence, the pollution figures that support LTNs? Nothing. Please can you show what the traffic flow rates are through Kings Heath and how these have been impacted by nothing. All these kind of questions. You do not get answers. Whether they're your friend, I don't know what yours are like, but you know, this is my own wording, and I didn't get answers. I'm also a key member of New Life Baptist Church, which is opposite Asda, on the High Street, next to Stan. And we run a cafe there. And again, our trade has been largely impacted. We get a lot of people coming in. We offer a facility. People just drop in and stay all day if they want to, keep warm, have a cup of coffee, as well as, you know, trying to run it as a business as well. That's been significantly impacted. Somebody was saying about the phase 2 and School Road. We have a member on School Road who is not able to walk much anymore, wants to come to church on a Sunday. To pick them up under the new system, I think they will have to go down Green Hill, down to Billesley Lane, along Billesley Lane to Springfield, turn left.
Doing a map in my head.
Yeah, doing it, turn left, and then at the end of that, you turn left again down to the Billesley pub. You go round the Billesley pub, past the school, down to the traffic lights.
Wheelers Lane.
Down Wheelers Lane, turn right onto Howard Road East, to the traffic lights to turn right to join the car park, which is the High Street. And even on a Sunday morning, it's pretty busy. So instead of going down Poplar Road from a house to church, somebody has to drive that journey with that amount of fuel in order to bring one person to church.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also,
there are the plans with the bus lane going from the main pole down to here to close off the right turn into Wheelers Lane from Colchester Road. So, what's that going to be like? Maybe looking like to...
Yeah, I'm not from Kings Heath but one of my main concerns, being a car driver, is that I feel safer if I go out in the evening in a car. I really don't want to be having to walk or catch buses that I'm not sure where I've got to go to, it's dark. And I just think as a safety, let alone the convenience of something to, you know, to I know that I'm going to get to that place, I'm not going to be parked. but actually the safety aspect hasn't been looked at. I came by Cadbury's where the train station is, and I often drive just, I don't know if you know the little lights there, as you come into Sturchley, that one. And I look at these steps at this station, and I just think, I would not be walking there on my own at night. No disrespect to people out there, but I just feel a lot safer. And I think as well, if you've got youngsters out and about and you want to give them lifts rather than they're hanging around at bus stops, I just find that just to have that and the freedom that I'm going to lose if they stop me having a car, it's just appalling. It's a human rights agenda as far as I'm concerned.
One more speaker and then we'll go back to the panel.
Hi everyone, I'm not a local lady, I actually live in Liffey, in Brandwood, and a friend of mine invited me today regarding this really important topic, and I'm really glad she did because I wasn't aware of it, so I apologise for my ignorance. But none of my friends that I'm very close to are aware of this either, so that's really quite shocking. I'm also a small retailer. I'm a member of the British Independent Retail Association, favour. I'm not sure if they're aware of this. I would suggest to the 200 retailers in Kings Heath that, you know, we get in touch with them. I mean, I'm a member, I pay monthly, but they're quite a strong representation. They've lobbied government. They've been on TV. You know, we need to get them behind us as retailers. We've suffered enough. I think it's time that, you know, we got some backing, and it's a really, really supportive association, so that could help people. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
We're going to go on to the next stage, what to do, but first of all, the floor to Alan.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I want to say you've got everything in this room. It's very inspiring, actually. You've got everything in this room that you need to curate and get what you think is best. Don't let anybody tell us that we're too stupid, we don't get it, or in fact we're not going to get listened to. I'm inspired by it, and actually, if people want to talk about history, I'll think about a few things in history. I think about the diggers and the levellers when they were doing the enclosures. That's how important I think this is. I think about the Chartist movement. I think about the Putney debates when they were debating about critical moments in our history in England and the United Kingdom, what it meant for the demos, for the democratic accountability, for the people to have a say. Our voices, our streets, our neighbourhoods, our families, our business, our friends, our colleagues, our regions, our country, us as citizens. There has become a contempt across all political colours of ordinary people. They think that they can just tell us what to do from high on up. It's absolutely correct that central government, with its active travel plan, has been underwriting these measures, and local authorities, often cash-strapped, have been implementing them, getting lots of money through stealth tax and imposing on things, when really they should be concentrating on local services, housing and improving transport. Now, we know that there are issues, but the way to resolve them is to have what we need, our needs, at the heart of things. To have proper democratic accountability. And we have to address this point that was raised. It is true that 2 years ago, when a few people around the country stood, some of them they didn't get in, right? Because if you look at Hackney, which is now saying they're going to have 75% of road closures, when the guy stood in the Hoxton East, people thought, oh, that's not going to happen everywhere, what are you talking about? Or when in Oxford, a candidate, John Skinner, stood 18 months ago, people thought, they're never going to roll these out like you're saying, what are you talking about? Actually, a month ago, 1,050 people voted for the person who stood against the LTNs, and they were just clipped by 1,100 votes. These are the amounts of numbers we're talking about. Now, that's the first of a change in wind, and I'm not saying the only thing to do is if people want to stand independently. It's the 4th of April is the deadline. But I am saying this, what this gentleman and this lady have said are really, really important, right? Going to surgeries, writing to councillors, then responding to their response, phoning them up, going to see them, taking letters to them, making them accountable, because when they send you an email back, one of those boilerplate ones that hasn't listened to you, they then tick it off. It then is said, well, we've dealt with it if they don't hear back. But if we keep putting pressure on them and they suddenly think, you know what, if they hear from 30 people, they get worried. If they hear from 100 constituents, they get very concerned. Many local councillors are being voted in by 500 people, 600 people. Let's put that into context. It's not just that though, it's campaigning, it's getting the rest of the businesses, it's getting the rest of the residents, it's getting the rest of the car companies, it's getting the rest of the people in ancillary areas, it's getting other regions. Let's have some solidarity amongst one another. It's also doing the same with the MPs and with Andy Street. And it's also about saying, we'll have a national network. We're going to have a national anti-LTN network, a national network that challenges the assumptions behind things like Sadiq Khan being able to say, I'm ignoring you, it doesn't matter. I'm going to call you Nazis, I'm going to do whatever I like. Or the clean air zone that they've implemented in Birmingham, or the 15 and 20 minute neighbourhoods where again they've not consulted and they're ignoring people. We can have a national fight back to their national imposition as well as being stronger locally and regionally, and that means getting engaged, getting your friends and colleagues and family members and neighbours involved, speaking to other businesses, get flyers out, approach them for the surgeries, write to them, do a video. This heartbreaking, infuriating story that we heard about the family and the fire brigade and the emergency services, we'd love to do a video with you, right? If anyone's got a story from here, we're putting videos out from around the country. Many have seen the stories, right? They like to call people names. They like to say they're conspiracists or far this or that. But we've got stories of ordinary people, all sorts of people, very diverse, young and old, black and white, men and women, disabled, all across the country talking about these impacts, how it's damaged their businesses, how it's impacted their ability to move, how they're concerns about safety, all of these, and the more that we get videos out there and we win hearts and minds of our fellow citizens and residents and neighbours, and we engage in the ideas and we take them at the best of them, and they keep telling us this is for our good, and they use these stats where they are disingenuous. For instance, the government has commissioned now, because we're forcing them to, a review of the LTNs, and who have they got to do the study? Well, it's the cycling campaigning activists. Of course it is, right? And who are the consultants usually? Well, they're sustrans. There's 2 or 3 consultants. Right, indeed. And so the thing is, now's our time. In Cambridge, they're going to stop the congestion charge. I can tell you they're really well organised. In London, we're going to stop ULEZ happening there. There's Labour, Conservatives, Lib Dems and Greens, residents. People are saying we're not having it, right? We're not having a stealth tax on the poorest. We're not having impositions where you lie, you ignore the democratic responses, you buy the cameras anyway in advance, and then you lie about the 4,000 figure as your last resort when the actual reports both say don't do that. I just think that we should know what we're up against, right? But it's not that tough, because the truth is, when you push the door with these people, you get an open door. Our experience has been, when you really put pressure on your local representatives, on your MPs, on your councillors, when you get together and organise and you use the brilliant brains that you've got in here and your examples, and you get each of you working together as a team, and we will support you nationally and regionally. Let's create this national fight back. Let's send a message both to Kings Heath and all the councillors, to Birmingham City Council, to the West Midlands, to Andy Street, and to Mark Harper and the Department of Transport and Central Government, that we're not having it anymore. We're not going to get treated with contempt. We are the residents, we're the businesses. If a majority agree with them, if that is really the truth, that having seen all this, then we'll accept that, but we need an honest, proper process. I will just say one other thing, right, about this. I get the point about the legal thing, people want to do it, right? I would just put a little air of caution. Councils have a lot of money, our money, that they can use, and sometimes it exhausts people with time and attention. In Hackney and other areas, people did that. Where it wasn't done that way, like in Ealing and in Southwark and some other places, residents got the LTNs taken out, and Leicester and other places. It's only been started for a certain amount of time, but if you protest, if you organise, if you engage civilly, if you win your fellow colleagues and neighbours and friends, we win hearts and minds, we get in the press, We talk to them, we put the videos out, we encourage these calls to action. Come and join us at the event on the 15th of April in Trafalgar Square. Together and a range of other campaigners, we're having people coming to speak in solidarity from around the country, because you're not strangers, we're all citizens together, right? Because you don't live in London and I don't live in Birmingham, it doesn't mean we can't have a common interest and a common purpose. We, the people, let's free our streets, let's take back democracy, and let's do it together, everyone.
Thank you for that. Now, as Alan has already mentioned, the legal challenge can be a very exhausting process. It is an option, but the key thing is that, as he said, we need to keep together. We need to be united. And one of the things, if you can do, is leave your email address here at the door. We will keep you contacted. We will keep the meetings. This has been a fantastic turnout, and we will keep doing these. Especially when we get to the permanent traffic regulation order, you know, we're not going to stay silent. We're going to object. I think we do need to get some legal advice so that we make sure that we are. Let's be a pain in the arse to Birmingham City Council. That, as I say, they're not going to get away with this as easy as they think they're going to do it. But the key thing is, please, if you've got an email address, please contact, leave it at the door here. We've got a donations bucket. We want to keep doing this. It does cost money. Powering this room has cost us money. Leaflets cost us money. We have a donations bin here. If on your way out you can leave a £5 would be absolutely amazing. It all goes to a good cause. It helps us organise more of these meetings. Also, we will look at a legal challenge. We are talking to a solicitor and a barrister who has regularly fought traffic regulations and orders where they've tried to close roads down, and they have won. Or they've brought the council to the negotiation table because the council know they're going to lose. But, you know, we're not there yet. We need to get you complaining on the proper things, and then we can get the barrister to look at the report that council will write, where they try and fob us all off and tell us if we've got a case or not. And then we can press the green button as to whether we go into the expensive judicial review. But we're not quite there. That'll be sort of July time to make a decision. But we've got a lot of work to do between now and then. And again, donations will help us enormously. Wendy, so Mark? Yeah, Mark, got Mark in one last word?
Just one final thing that thoughts come to mind. Most of you know that there's going to be another raft of LTNs on the east side. I think Martin's already mentioned it. So in phase 2. So you haven't seen anything yet in terms of the problems that's already being faced. This is going to be multifold. We've got the bus lane that's coming in from the Maypole to Howard Road, that's inbound city. It's going to restrict turning movements, and so there's going to be a lot of traffic going to be forced onto Howard Road, where you've got Royal Mail. So just to let you know that you haven't seen anything yet. And so that's all I wanted to say, really. In terms of the email addresses that we're collecting, that will be data protection compliance. So we're only going to use it for our purposes, and that's it. And that's basically to let you know what's going on. And if you haven't actually put your email address down, please do so on the way out, please. Thank you.
Got one last person you want to mention something?
I do, yes. My name's Rosie. I live in Balsall Heath, which has got a ridiculous little LTN, which was a piece of cycle lane that we put in at the end of Ladypool Road. I just wanted to draw everybody's attention. We've had some good discussion about contacting councillors and MPs. If you are online, there's a survey that's out by Transport for the West Midlands. It's called 6 Big Moves, and everybody can go on
and this is consultation. Fill in the survey. It's all about the bigger picture with things like LTNs, and it's very open. You don't have to go searching the corners of the internet to find out what's behind a lot of this. So the first section in this survey has got a picture of a queue of cars, and underneath it says behaviour change. So they're very open that they want to discourage the use of what they call particular forms of transport, but we know what that means. So this is your opportunity. This survey is open until the 17th of April, so I encourage you to go and complete it.
And then if you've got your email down here, we will email you with a link to that survey, because if you read it, this is Andy Street, your elected mayor. It's the introduction of the 15-minute city, and they talk about restricting car use and removing on-street parking at various places. This is, say, the 15-minute city being rolled out across the West Midlands.
Can I just say, as part of that, one of the strap lines is envisioning the future without cars. Come on.
That's what it's all about.
One of the strap lines is envisioning the future without cars.
That's in the.
That's in that.
Great, and it's amazing how I thought we were about to wrap the meeting up, and I've got lots of hands. We will have to wrap the meeting up very quickly. Can you be very quick?
My name's Greg. I live in Salisbury Road, which is where the wraparound starts. I started a petition 2 years ago via Change.UK to have safety measures put in, and I was surprised I got about 800 people to support it. But also I did a paper vote, and just walked along the road. First of all, I put things through letterboxes, walked along the road, and got to know my neighbours much better, and had another 170 people who joined it. So you can get a groundswell road by road within the LTNs, and you get lots of signatures, those who put against it.
Thank you. Get very quickly, to wrap this up.
I don't want to be cynical, but I'm afraid my experience is Birmingham City Council only acts on the legal route, whether it's the closure of special schools or whatever. So I think we should put pressure on, but I think unfortunately ultimately we have to go down the legal route.
Okay, and it will need, I say, funding, because these are very expensive, so it's going to involve us. Again, donation bucket at the door helps us. So, very quickly.
Absolutely. I've mentioned previously at another meeting that I'm from the Republic of Sandwell, and this week, the second focus group in the Republic of Sandwell that are talking about force, control, deterrent to try and force through US congestion charging LTNs. Now, I don't want to, I think the gentleman's here, but the last meeting at the Malmaison, a gentleman said that travel broadens the mind. I'm not sure if the gentleman's here now, but this is an attempt to control your actions, your movements and your thoughts.
Great, thank you. Oh, and then finally, we're going to leave the last word to our good friend here, Stan, and then we're going to wrap the meeting up.
First and foremost, I want to thank you all for coming, because without you, it wouldn't be so successful, and it has been successful. I'd like to thank Kings Heath Cricket Club for letting us have the room, and you don't have to rush off. You can go and have a drink, spend your money here. Have a look at the facilities they've got. They've got a good list of sports they do here. And thank the members of Kings Heath Business Association and the committee. We've got a fabulous committee now. We've got a very diverse committee. We don't always agree, but we've got a good committee, and we're all working together to put this on. So thank you all again for coming.